The bench press is one of the best upper body exercises of all time. It effectively builds the chest, shoulders, and triceps and gives you amazing general strength. The only thing, however, is that guys like myself and powerlifters tend to be pretty dogmatic in prescribing this exercise. Because yes, although I believe that you should be shooting for a 315 for 5 pause bench, this may not be for everybody. And in fact, you don't need to bench this much in order to get jacked and in order to get strong. So let me talk about what is acceptable, what's a good substitute. So first and foremost, it should be evident that the bench press is not the only movement that builds the chest, shoulders, and tris. There are a ton of horizontal pressing movements that do exactly the same thing, such as the weighted dips. In fact, I'm going to say that the weighted dips might even be better than the flat bubble bench press, and that if you did them exclusively, you'd probably reach your genetic max for the chest. I have no doubt in my mind this would be done because weighted dips are a phenomenal movement. Same thing for the flat dumbbell press. Imagine if you're doing the 150-pound dumbbells for reps. Do you honestly believe that you're going to have a small chest? I mean, common sense should tell you, hell no. So that's what I'm trying to say. The bench is not the only lift to get strong at. And whenever you hear a powerlifter saying that if you're not hitting 365 or 405, that you ain't doing shit, that's just biased, dogmatic crap. It is what it is. Because if you have a high exercise selection of various presses, horizontal, vertical, etc., you're going to get all the benefits you need. And in my opinion, man, yes, I do recommend the bench. I do believe that everyone should shoot for a 3-plate bench, but it is not necessary by any means. If you did nothing but overhead press, weighted dips, maybe some flies in there too, and a bunch of other flat dumbbell presses, you'd most likely reach your genetic max for the chest. I have no doubt in my mind. Now, what about the shoulders and the triceps? Well, guess what? The bench is not even the best movement to develop these two areas. Sure, we can argue that a guy who does 4 or 5 is going to be jacked overall. He's going to have great shoulders, great triceps. But you don't actually have to bench 4 or 5 to get similar development. You see my point? If you were to focus on your overhead pressing, you would get much bigger shoulders than any bench press could ever offer. Compare the guy who could do over 225 for reps on the overhead press versus the 365 bencher. Who do you think is going to have bigger shoulders? I am more inclined to believe that the overhead presser will have far better development, especially when you consider the fact that in order to get a strong overhead press, you require a multitude of different vertical pressing variations. The Z press, the Viking press, the behind the neck press, the overhead dumbbell press. There's a ton of vertical presses that you can do that are infinitely better than the bench. And this is undeniable. The bench is a great overall mass builder, but it's not the end-all be-all. Okay? If, like I said, if you did nothing but weighted dips, overhead press, maybe some incline work, some flat dumbbell press in there too, maybe some flies, you would reach your genetic max. Real talk. Now, what about the triceps? Again, lots of overhead pressing variations will hit the long head effectively, which is in fact the meatiest part of the triceps. And if you combine that with direct tricep work, such as extensions, push downs, all that type of stuff, basically fluff and pump work, or just powerlifting specific exercises that typically raise your bench, you're going to have some very big arms naturally. You're going to hit a very good amount. You don't have to bench to have big arms. That's just, again, it's dogmatic bullshit. Imagine if you could do skull crushers with 185 pounds for reps. Do you think that your arms are going to be small? Obviously not. What if you're doing weighted dips with over 2 plates for reps? You think your arms are not going to be hugging the sleeves? Let's be real here, right? There's a lot of gymnasts who don't even do the bench press, and some of them have better arm development than a lot of natural bodybuilders. So there is something to say that it's not the only movement in existence. There are so many other exercises that you can explore with. And that's why, in my programs, I always write the bench as a part of it, but I also include tons of variations. And guys are always asking me, Alex, why don't you just do the regular competition bench? Because I'm not a fucking powerlifter, and I recognize that there are exercises that are better. Okay? There's so much shit you could do. Why restrict yourself to the big 3? You see my point? And then one final thing that I'd like to mention is the fact that prioritizing horizontal pressing in general is not going to make you look massive as a whole anyway. It doesn't really matter. In fact, if we take 2 guys, just for an example here, right? One dude could do 4 or 5 on the bench, but he has no yoke development. Whereas guy B does 315 on the bench, yet he's yoked out of his damn mind. Who do you think is going to be more muscular? Who do you think is going to look bigger? Who do you think is going to be more impressive? Obviously, the 315 bencher. Even though he's not as strong at horizontal presses, the fact that his frame as a whole is bigger is going to render him a much bigger person as a whole. He's going to dwarf the guy who benches 4 plates. So if you're trying to get massive, you should be focusing on the enhanced muscles. That's what makes you look big. All the big guys that I've known in my life have these areas developed. Traps, upper back, shoulders, forearms, glutes, and a wide fucking neck. A wide neck will do wonders for your physique. In fact, instead of going for that 4 or 5 bench, why don't you shoot for that 20-inch neck? Why don't you try to get your neck extension with a harness to over 225 pounds for reps? See what that does. I guarantee you that focusing on areas other than the chest, because that's really the only exclusive feature of the bench press. Because like I said, there are a ton of better movements for the shoulders and the tries. If you focus on other areas, like the neck, it's going to be a much better investment of your time. And that's why in 2016, I didn't do any benching whatsoever. I only got bigger. I only got stronger. I have my best possible physique right now because I'm focusing on other shit. And I have no plans on returning on the bench as of right now. Maybe I'll do so in the near future. But right now, man, I really don't care whatsoever because I know that weighted dips, gymnastic training, push-ups, direct tricep work like extensions, overhead press, all these things is going to give me a terrific physique. And I could give you one final example. In October, November of 2015, so almost 2 years ago, I did over 345 raw touch-and-go bench press. Thing is, I don't even know if I can do that today. It's 2017. I don't know if I can hit that anymore. Yet, I'm the biggest I've ever been in my life. I'm the leanest. I'm the biggest. I look fucking phenomenal right now. And guess what? I'm not doing any benching. I might even be weaker than I was in the past. So this should show you right off the bat that it's not the only way to make gains. I certainly recommend the bench to most individuals. You should be prioritizing your bench. Real talk. You should shoot for that 3 plate. But once you start getting really advanced and shit, and like, you're not really benefiting much if you ask me. It's just your ego talking. It's your powerlifting ego, which is fine. If you're a powerlifter, so fucking be it. But if you just want to be jacked as a whole, honestly, focus on the enhanced muscles and just work in your different presses as a whole. There's lots of variations. Trust me. So that's it for today's video. I hope you learned something. I want to hear your feedback down below. Do you think the bench press is necessary for building great physique? I want to know. And with that, I will talk to you all next time.